Good morning, it's Maria. I'm a Stamping Up demonstrator in Ontario, Canada, and today I would like to show you at least 4 different ways that you can make a card using the Reflected in Nature stamp set. Now, when I first saw this in the catalog on page 50, I can't say I was too impressed and decided not to get it. Well, I borrowed this stamp set from a friend, and I can't stop making cards. Sometimes you think that you're not going to be able to get much use out of a stamp set until you start playing with it. So anyway, that's what I did, and I've got some cards and a project to show you. So before I start stamping, let me show you what I've done. Here is a calendar card that I made using the Reflected in Nature. I'll explain later how I colored this. Then, because it is fall right now and a lot of the leaves have fallen off the trees already, but I wanted to make a fall colored one. So this is what I think this is my favorite card. Here's another one in shades of blue. And that's one of the things I'm going to show you, how to use 2 different colors. Anyway, I have some other samples, but let's get right into making a card. And let me show you the card that we're going to make, or I'm going to make with you. It's an ombre card, variations of the same color. Now, the card will be a little bit different. I'm using different designer paper, mainly because I've run out of this pattern. This is from Harvest Nature. So, and for all of my projects and cards, I have used the Stamparatus. So whenever you have a stamp where you think that you might need to stamp more than once to get the desired color that you want, or ink coverage, then use the Stamparatus, okay? Right, so I don't know if I'll be able to, I think I might be able to do this. Yes, no, okay. All right, so I'm starting with a piece of 3.5 by 3.5 basic white. And the way I'm going to, first of all, I want to show you how to do it with one color, which is this effect. And then I'll go on to 2. So what I'm going to do is take Night of Navy, and I'm just going to ink up my stamp, and I'm going to stamp. And I'm not going to worry about shading or whether the top or the bottom. I'll just ink it up. And this makes a perfectly good card. I quite like it. And you'll see what I mean about inking it up more than once. Yeah, I think I'll do it once more. Well, I think my ink pad needs to be re-inked because I have used it quite a bit. And when that happens, then you need to stamp it more than once. Okay, that's not too bad. I'd probably want to do it once more, but that's the idea. This is with Night of Navy. With this one, I used Misty Moonlight, and you can see the difference in the colors. But that's stamping with one color. Makes a perfectly good card. I quite like it. Add a little bit of Wink of Stella or Shimmer Crystal Effects, and you've got a lovely card. Now, let's do this. I'll just clean off my stamp. Let's do this with 2 colors. And really, it's not really that difficult. There's no masking involved. A lot of people say, well, how difficult is that? Do you mask? Do you clean your stamp off in between? No. It's actually very simple. I know I say it, but... So what I've done here is I've used 2 colors, Soft Suede and Crumb Cake. And I'm going to start with Crumb Cake. We need some paper, don't we? I think I have another piece. Here we go. Oh, that's a strong magnet. Now, before I tack it down, I just want to make sure that I'm in the right position here. Okay. Now, this is cut, if I can't remember if I told you 3.5 by 3.5. You can cut it a little bit less than that if you're feeling very confident. Now, what I'm doing first is I'm stamping the whole image with crumb cake. And you can certainly leave it like that. It kind of reminds me of the old photographs. Now, without inking it up, I'm going to add just ink on the top portion. And the best way, if you look at your ink pad, now this is an old ink pad and it's falling apart, but it's still good. At this end of your ink pad, you don't have a large part of the case. So take advantage of that. And just move this aside here. And then just ink up the top part. Now, if there's a little bit of overlap with the bottom, don't worry about it. Now, let's see what that looks like. Okay, we're getting there. I think I'll do it once more. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I probably could do it once more, but I think I'm going to leave it at that. And you see, by doing it with crumb cake first, no, I'm going to do it once more. That's better. Okay. So by doing it all with crumb cake first, you have this variation of color in the trees and underneath the trees. And you still have that lighter color reflected in the water. So while this is drying, I'm going to stamp. I'll just put this aside. And I'm going to stamp the inside. Now the inside of the card, I've done this. I have taken this May Your Journey Take You to Many New and Exciting Places on the inside, and I've taken the hawk and I have stamped it 3 times. You don't have to do it 3 times, but I liked the way that looked. So we'll get the inside of my card here. There's the rest of my card. There we go. And I have a piece of designer paper that I'm going to put on the bottom this time. All right, so now I'm going to use the soft suede ink. I used early Espresso there. And I'll just stamp off here, because sometimes the image gets put on upside down. Like I said, I borrowed this from a friend, and a couple of the images on the stamps are upside down, so I'm just being careful. Your journey. Okay. All right, it's slightly crooked, but acceptable. Now, my little hawk. There. And while we're at it, I will stamp the sentiment as well. And the sentiment is different than in the card I'm using. Each day is an adventure. And I have a little strip that was left over when I cut the pieces for the front and the back. It's a little piece, but this is the one that is actually put backwards. But it doesn't matter when you're stamping on a little strip like this. There, I think I got it. that aside. And I have a pair of scissors here somewhere. Here it is. And I'll just trim off the ends. I'm going to also make it a little bit smaller. Now I could use my trimmer, but if you have a long scissors, it's just as easy to do that. There, I like that better. And I have a piece of early espresso that I'm going to mat it with. And I'll use my Tombo. And I'll trim that down as well. There, all set. And I might just as well add this to the inside while I'm at it. And I always cut this a little bit longer than the inside than is needed. That way I can trim it and I don't fall short. Sometimes my measuring isn't exact. Math was never my strong point in school. I never did pass grade 8 math. However, when I got to the master's level, I did pass that course, and I aced it actually, so there you go. So that's the inside, and now we can get back to, I think our image is dry. Put that aside. And what I'm going to do, if you look closely, you see that it is not a straight line. Now, you can fussy cut this if you like, but why not tear it? That'll make it have a real good look. Okay, so you start and place your thumb, protect it where on your image, and tear down towards your thumb. And as you tear, always tear in the same direction. So if you start tearing down, then all the way around, tear down. Don't automatically turn and then start tearing it in the opposite direction. Your paper looks different. Now, if you have arthritic hands like me, sometimes this is harder. And I did several of these yesterday and ended up breaking the nail on my finger. That hurt. So, like I said, if you have arthritis on your fingers, this is hard for you, then just fussy cut around there. I like the look of the torn edge. And seeing this is an ombre or an old world look, then tearing suits it very well. Now, what you can do as well is that I have a finger dauber, and you can just sponge the edges to take that stark whiteness away, seeing as everything else is that lovely ombre color. There. And you don't need to ink it up, because if you've used your dauber, you've got lots of remnant ink left on that. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring out the rest of my supplies for the card. And here I have a soft suede base. I have a piece of basic white, which is 4 by 5 1/4. I have another piece of the Nature's Harvest designer paper. I need to trim that down. It should be 3 3/4 by 5. So just hold on a second while I do. Okay, I'm back. Here we have 3 3/4 by 5. And then if you'll see right in the center, I have a piece of crumb cake, which I have embossed with the bark embossing folder. And this is the bark embossing folder. And then I've matted that with early espresso. Okay, and that goes underneath. And I've also, the image piece, I have matted it with Very Vanilla. And I just want to, I think that's good. I might want to trim that down a bit. Okay, so let's do the main part of the card, and that's, of course, the inside. Let's put these together. And you don't need very much Tombo, just a little bit on the edges. And I'll add these together. Now, when you're working with an embossed surface, you know, you've got all these little crevices and grooves. By the way, this is 2 1/4 by 4 1/2. Then you want to be using a liquid adhesive because that gets into the little grooves and crevices, whereas a tape runner or a tape glue doesn't do that. It doesn't adhere very well. It will stick, but, you know, not as well as a liquid glue will. And then I'll add that to the front of the card as well. I'll have all the measurements on my blog. All right, now what I want to do is I'm just going to trim this one down. Okay, I've trimmed it back down. And I'll adhere them together, and then I'm going to sponge the edges as well. Now, I could have used basic white, but the Very Vanilla then transitions the image to the rest of the card. Now, I don't let's see if I need to ink up my sponge dauber. Yeah, I probably do. That's better. You don't need much ink on it. There. Now I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals to adhere this. Here it is. To the card front. And I'll use my trusty pick tool to take off these covers. And you add that to the card front where you would like it. Now, on my sample, I actually use 2 of the sentiments, but in this case, I'm going to use 1. And I think I'm just going to, I'll put it right, no, I'm going to put it on the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to use Tombo in the center. Okay, and then I'm going to use dimensionals at the end. And I'll explain why in just a sec here. Because if you see, there is a little bit of a dip. And if you don't want your paper to curl to meet the card front, you just put a dimensional at the end. There. And that is the card. Now, another thing that I did over here is that I put the Shimmer Crystal Effects right on the water, or you can use Wink of Stella. So let's do some crystal effects. Now, if you do that, maybe what I should do is put the inside of the card put it on, and I'll turn this upside down to let the crystal effects come to the forefront. So we'll do the inside. There it comes. This is like glue. Well, actually, Crystal Effects is a type of glue. Okay, here it comes. I'll just get it going here. I'll put it on like this, and then sometimes I'll just take my finger and smooth it. That gives it the effect of ice. There we go. You see that? Okay, and the like I said, the alternative is the Wink of Stella. It just doesn't give that same shimmer effect. All right, so that is, there's the 2 cards. Now let me show you a few other samples. Now they weren't made into cards because I was just playing with them, just different colors. Now this is Old Olive and Pool Party. This is Mossy Meadow and Balmy Blue. This is Mossy Meadow and Old Olive. So you can see that you can try different color combinations, like the way I showed you to do this one. Okay, so Reflected in Nature, a stamp set that I didn't think I wanted, now I want. And these are the 2 cards that we made with it. But there's many other ways that you can use this, from the monochromatic look to the ombre look to the look with 2 colors. And you can make projects using it, like my calendar card. So thank you very much for watching, and you can check my blog. The address will be in the description on the blog, on the YouTube, and I will have the dimensions there as well. Thank you very much for watching.